In this episode,
You know, you do yoga, you know.
Oh boy, where's this going?
I do yoga.
You do yoga. I was gonna say Kama Sutra, but I was like, I don't know. You break out the
You
tantric
guys are real close.
Welcome. You're listening to Paleo Cheese Podcast, episode 16, part 2, The House of the Devil with Hunter Shea.
All right. So, The House of the Devil. This is the movie that Hunter picked for us to watch. He gave us 3. We chose that one, and it's a horror film set in the early '80s about a babysitter who breaks an expensive vase and pays the price. And also some people get hurt and bleed a little bit.
I like how you say breaks a vase. That's the turning point. I like that. Breaks a vase.
Yes. It's directed by Ty West, written by Ty West, and starring Margot Kidder's younger twin sister, as well as, Jocelyn Donahue.
Jocelyn Donahue. Love her.
And Dollaride from Manhunter, the superior adaptation of Thomas Harris's book Red Dragon,
and the guy in costume from that 80s or 90s version of Beauty and the Beast.
Tom Noonan was in Beauty and the Beast?
No. No. The guy with the bridge, the big thick nose, dude. The makeup was basically the exact same. The demon, man. The demon was the guy from Beauty and the Beast. His forehead, the bone structure, the nose. I thought, and I was like, look, dude, it's Beast from Beauty and the Beast.
I thought you were going with Monster Squad because Tom Noonan was Frankenstein. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen him in anything, and I knew him right away. It was good to see him because he's just got this creepy demeanor about him, and I love Manhunter. And so to see,
so good at that.
To see him, I was like, oh, cool. This is probably going to be pretty cool. So I like this guy. But so. What made you choose this one? You mentioned earlier that you just love it.
This is probably my top 5 horror movies of all time.
Really?
It came out in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it. In 2012, I designated officially online, like the month of October is Horror-tober.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do every Horror-tober is watch at least one horror movie a day. So I usually finish around 50 movies for the month, and I give out my rating systems or whatever. So this has become like one of those Horror-tober staples. Like, and plus I also watch it during the rest of the year too.
Mm-hmm.
There's with me, movies are about a vibe, and there's a vibe in this movie that just totally gets me. Like the first time I saw it, I said, "How the hell did I miss this? This is like some movie from the 80s. How did I not know this movie existed?"
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no, this is actually a new movie. I mean, it's intentionally shot that way. It's part of the mumblecore kind of movie thing. I don't give a crap about mumblecore. And I think a lot of people hate this movie because of Ty West and mumblecore and this stuff, which I totally don't get.
What is that? For people who may not know, including me, what is mumblecore?
Jeremiah, like any Mark and J. Duplass film would be considered, heavy on the dialogue or atmosphere, usually dialogue.
Yeah. A lot of like, kind of like,
Paddleton is 100% mumblecore. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 20-somethings talking about their feelings.
Yeah.
But there really isn't a lot of that in this movie anyway.
Yeah.
But there's a vibe, there's an aesthetic. I love the music. I love
music is great.
Yeah. I love the fact that you got like Tom Noonan, Mary Warnoff, Dee Wallace, like they're in these are like horror icons to me.
Yep.
I love Jocelyn Donahue's performance in this puts her in my Hall of Fame. Like there are some actresses that go in my horror Hall of Fame, like Micah Monroe from It Follows. I'll follow her to the end of the earth because she did It Follows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jocelyn Donahue is another one of those because I think she was just perfect for the role. I related to the Satanic Panic thing from the 80s. Yeah. I related to Walkmans. I related to The Fix.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One thing leads to another. I got that 45 up in my attic still. Just everything about this movie just hit all of my horror pleasure points. And Like I said, it's a movie. I've probably seen it 20 something times at this point, and it gets better every time I watch it. And I can't say that about many movies, but this is just one of them.
It is. I'll just say right off the bat, that I did like it. The music was great. The character, I can't remember the roommate, the blonde chick's name.
Oh, Greta Gerwig.
I didn't like her character as much as I did how she was portraying her. The lines that she delivered were phenomenal, I thought. Like I can't remember what lines, like when she's getting her cigarette lit from that guy.
Yeah.
And a couple of last lines that she says, I mean, they were just so well done for what she was told. You need to act like this, whatever. Her delivery was awesome.
See,
her hair and that hair. Man.
That's great hair.
Yeah.
They both
her
have
hair
great
was
hair.
just stunning. I kept saying that over and over, man. Just like I kind of missed that stuff.
And Greta Gerwig, when I first saw her character, I was like, "That's my friend Angela." So I have a friend who that's her. I mean, to a T, complete with the look, the affectations, everything about her was my friend Angela. So I was like, I fell for that, and what happened to her. That was one of those literally scream out loud, "Oh shit!" when it happened. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, that was good, man. In the chick, the Donahue chick, she Jocelyn Donahue, is that her name?
Jocelyn Donahue, yeah.
Yeah, she my gosh, she reminded me of Margot Kidder in Black Christmas, or like a really young Margot Kidder.
Yeah.
Looked a little like from the hair to just her her very narrow cheeks. But it's a movie, like I mentioned a little bit before we started. It's a movie that I don't know that I can I would have to know somebody well before I can say, yes, you're going to like this movie, because of the slowness of it. And not just at the beginning, because it does pick up. Once they get to the house, it gets fun. Mm-hmm. But then once she's in the house by herself, it slows it down again for another good 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I think it's all impending dread. Because immediately, like, this is some freaking weirdo. See, asking to babysit an old lady. What the hell?
I think it's necessary, but I think that, I don't know. I'll be honest. I was enjoying the movie, and then once we got to that point where she's in there and she's like going from room to room, and she's like checking all the rooms out, and just nothing is really happening, I fell asleep.
Oh no!
And I had to.
Oh no!
I fell asleep. That's like the stuff I do.
Yeah. I fell asleep.
I loved it. He loved it because it gave him good dreams. He's exactly. Like, I fell asleep, but it was great.
No, and then I woke up when the Fix song started happening, because it got loud.
I love that scene.
And I was like, oh, cool. This is cool. She's playing, and she's playing pool. Then I woke up and I stayed up. But when I got to the end of the movie and I finished the whole thing, I went back to see if I would miss anything important in those 10 or 15 minutes. Not a thing.
Look, here's what you miss. Build up. You miss build up. Because there's a lot of times when she's going through the house, you think something's going to happen, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
And the best way I can describe that, George Romero talked about the original The Thing from Another World. And he says that whole movie, for 3/4 of the movie, it's just people opening door, close the door, open the door, close the door. And if you watch the movie, when that's in your head, you can't not see them opening and closing doors endlessly. And it's all to lead up to that point when they open that door one time and the thing comes out and goes for them. And it scares the living crap out of you. So it's just about building this thing where you keep going, is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen now? And then it does happen. And you're like, holy crap.
I like it when it happens before it gets to that point, because you're expecting. I mean, I've seen enough, horror movies to know that, there's every slasher has them where they're creeping around with a lantern or whatever because the light's out, and they're checking behind the shower curtain, and they're checking under the bed, and they're going to another room, and it's a 5 to 10 minute little travel, and a lot of the victims go through this whole thing. But when you get something that's just like, you think that's going to happen, and then they grab you right there, that's when I have a big smile on my face, because number one, I didn't have to go through that. And
just give me the edited version, man.
And you took me by surprise. That build up, I understand why it's there, and I understand what it does for some people, but it doesn't do anything for me at all.
Yeah, I'm all about the build up.
Yeah.
Like whenever on Final Guys I mention the word edging, that drives Jason crazy.
Edging?
Just stop saying that.
Yeah.
Check out YouPorn. You'll find out about edging.
Oh no,
it's a whole thing.
Well,
you can apply it to mental things too.
I was when I was watching, I'm kind of a little bit with Chad on that. However, I thought that the things that they kind of like, yes, insofar as she, the primary victim, is concerned, it was a long buildup, but there were a couple occasions where something, like the friend that gets shot, that was a stunning thing. I wasn't anticipating it, and that was pretty gory. Maybe even for the likes of Chad, who lamented the fact that Killer Sofa didn't involve a scene close up of a guy sawing his own leg off or whatever. And hearing all the bones and the flesh flying, but so like that scene and the scene, which I have a little bit of a criticism of this, that there's the scene where she walks up to the door and she's about to go in, and it kind of pans over to the right, and when it pans over, you see that there's this sprawled out pentagram on the ground with people laid out. Yeah, the family in there all totally messed up and everything. But that was at least it kind of was like a little bit
brought you back in.
It brought me back in because it was. Now I can appreciate too the atmospheric dynamic of it, to say like, okay, we're in the world of cell phones, right? So with us, like the idea of being in a house, you just be like, I'm going to turn on a cell phone or whatever. I'm going to call my friend and I've got my Facebook lined up and, you're doing that. But if you don't have that at all, and you're in this creepy house, and even if you call your friend on the rotary, right, that if you do that, they may not be there, and you're going to get the voicemail, and then you're normally not carrying around some kind of a book that's got all of your, contacts in it. And so unless you memorized all of them, you're going to kind of be like, well, I don't know, what am I going to do now? So, it kind of forced you back into that world. And I felt that the director did a really good job of preserving that almost seamlessly, as far as I can tell, that it was seamless, that there was that it was as people thought, as they acted, even the fears being in a house and not being distracted by a glowing device and stuff. Maybe you would, pull out a huge knife and start walking around with that thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the beauty of setting it in 83, where you're an island. Like, if you're too young to know, you could be an island at any moment. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, any little thing that happens, like my car breaks down in freaking Harlem, which happened, I'm a fucking island, so, and you're on your own. So I like that aspect. And there's something about Jocelyn Donahue's performance as Samantha where you really feel for her. She's a slight girl. She's desperate for money. Like, they offered her $400. $400.
Yeah, that's a lot of loot, man.
Huge. And she needed it because, A,
83?
greatest woman on earth, Dee Wallace, is offering you an apartment for, you need that to get the apartment. I love Dee Wallace as the landlady. That's great in the credits.
I noticed before every single actor's name, it said starring. And I thought that was weird. I don't know if anybody else caught that.
Yeah.
It said starring this person.
It's very 70s.
Then it would show it, and then next one it said starring this person.
Yeah.
And then the next person starring, and then finally at the end, and also starring. I thought that was weird. But I did like the credits, and I like the way they froze it. And of course the choice of yellow in the font. It screamed late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, kind of reminded me of The Sentinel when I saw that.
Oh man, I love that movie. Yeah, let me ask you this, Hunter. Going back a little bit to the buildup and how you love the buildup. Let me ask you this: if the girl who was shot in the car, and we were going to do spoilers, I guess, that was shot in the car, there was an impactful and like exciting scene. Would you have liked it more if she got out of the car and she crept around the woods for 5 minutes and then got shot in the head. That's why I like when it happens when I don't expect it and I'm not waiting for. That's what I like, and that's the one that puts the smile on my face, and I'm like, oh yes.
I don't want her running through the cemetery. I want her shot in the car right there.
I almost wish the guy wouldn't have even looked behind the car. It was a misdirection that the guy on the outside that gave her the lighter, as he's talking to her, he kind of looks back, almost as if you're anticipating other people will come, right? And I thought there would be others there, and but I kind of wondered like what would have been like if he just didn't have that at all, because it makes him look suspicious.
Right.
That he's doing that. But it's still, the effect was still there.
By the way, both girls ended up getting shot in the head in the cemetery. Same cemetery.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of cool. One lived, one kind of did. I don't know if she's going to want to live.
Yeah. Yeah. She's brain dead pizza because of the pizza.
By the way, speaking of pizza, this is an anytime anybody eats pizza, it doesn't taste right. How the fuck is that possible? Like when they're first in the pizza parlor, Samantha and her friend, she's like, "Oh, this pizza doesn't taste good." They just drop after a slice, and then when Samantha gets the pizza delivered, it doesn't taste right. Well, because for a very good reason.
Did anybody catch the and I won't say, of course, the name for fear of the censors on YouTube and elsewhere, but the whole pizza connection with the satanic stuff. With abducting chicks for sex and stuff. I thought,
baby.
It's 10 years early, man. This is that programming, whatever, predictive programming, dude.
Right.
They were preparing us for WikiLeaks. That's what it was. They were saying, do you want pepperoni with that, little boy? I'm like, oh my gosh.
The extra anchovy is a homage to what was that movie?
I know what you're talking about. Damn it.
A rom-com from the 80s where this pizza delivery boy was a gigolo and
a lover boy or something. I forget the name of that movie.
Yeah, Patrick Dempsey, I think, was the guy who played the thing, but I can't remember the name. Maybe it was the lover boy or something. But anytime anybody asked for extra anchovies, it meant that he was going to go have sex with this housewife or this this single lady or whatever. And so that's what they were doing. They were poking at that with the extra anchovies, because it's the first thing he said. Do you want extra anchovies? He's like, no.
It's like, no, nobody wants any anchovies ever.
When the guy answered the door, I mean, they were already creeped out, but when the guy answered the door, I mean, he just did so many things. He just planted so many red flags that these girls, especially can I speak to you alone? It's like, no, there's no way. If I was a chick way out in the middle of nowhere, no, you can't.
You don't understand. Girls in 1983 were tougher than the girls now, and maybe more desperate, because he made the great setup for it. She is desperate for money.
Yeah.
And it's almost like this guy knew that she was desperate for money. It was like he was prescient that she needed this. So he lured her with money. And I guarantee you, probably 9 out of 10 of my friends in 1983 would have done anything for $400. Anything. Including getting in a cockfight ring. It wouldn't have mattered.
What is the... I don't remember the 80s having this... like stigma against watching old people. Like the guy alluded to not being able to, he alluded to not being able to find anyone who would watch his elderly mother, so he had to lie. But if you think about it, babysitting a kid is much more exhausting than taking care of an elderly person. And we're talking about for a few hours. I mean, there was nobody had to go in there and wipe her butt and give her a shower. And
she's just going to stay upstairs.
Stuff like that. So I thought that was weird that she's like, oh no, I'm not going to watch an old person.
Yeah. Well, old people are icky. Because babysitting is babysitting. It's called babysitting because there's a freaking baby.
It's also exhausting.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. My daughters are babysitters and they've been nannies for years, and I watch them. I'm probably never going to have grandkids because they've been nannies and they don't want kids ever. So old people are easier, but they're also, gross.
In this movie, it was a deal breaker for sure.
Yeah.
It seemed like easier job. I mean, you could sit there and if they wanted to talk, you could hear some old stories about their heroic days or whatever. Just
yeah, but he advertised it as a babysitter. So that's immediately go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Your mom? You already look 80. How old is your mom?
Yeah, that's what my thought too. I was like, your mom. Wow. How old is she?
Yeah, I can understand. I can understand being creeped out. Look, at age 20, I wouldn't want to babysit some old person. I didn't want to even be around my grandparents.
If I would have taken that, I don't know,
$100, $100.
If you said, here, I'll give you $100. Do you want to watch this 4-year-old that's running around or 8-year-old that's running around, or do you want to watch this old person knitting for 4 hours? Oh man, give me 2 old people.
See, I think you're looking at it through the lens of a person who's been around a while. When you're 20, you're closer to the 5-year-old than you are to the 75-year-old.
Okay.
So you feel like, all right, we can find some common ground over here. In that exchange also is what doomed her, because you almost get the feeling if she wasn't so goddamn greedy, she might have just been able to walk away.
Yeah.
But her desperation and greed is what doomed her to her fate.
Well, and you can tell, I mean, she makes some other, mistakes that only a young person would probably make, even at the time, maybe especially at the time, because she dialed 911 and then said it was an accident, but it's a rotary phone. Like,
yeah.
You don't accidentally
hard to make that accident.
Yeah, it's like, oh, oops, I must have accidentally dialed. No, you dialed 911, lady. Like,
sat waiting 30 seconds for that thing to keep popping back. Yeah. Mistake.
Yeah, right.
I noticed too, and the guy, at first I thought the guy kept mentioning pizza because, I mean, I knew that it might have something to do with it, but that maybe he had some slight dementia or something like that. But it was obvious by the end that it was like some kind of power of suggestion to make sure that, because that was how they were going to drug her. They needed to have that guy come in there, and so they could do their eclipse, immaculate conception, or whatever you want to call it.
By the way, she holds the pizza wrong. When she gets the box, she holds it like to her chest, like a briefcase. Like, you don't hold pizza like that. You hold the box straight. And even though she holds it like that, it's still kind of there. It's funny. She took a knife to cut the pizza slices. They're already so far apart.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
There's no need for that.
Didn't it look like there was a piece missing or somebody took a bite out of it?
I didn't notice that.
When I saw the box open up, it was like the pieces were together. You could tell they were cut, and loose enough you could easily pull it.
Yeah.
But there was this big spot that was like wide open. And my first thought was, dude, did somebody take a bite out of that pizza?
I'm going to have to watch it now.
You got to watch it, man.
Maybe it's just because it slid all around because she was hugging it like Hunter said.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it slid around.
Yeah, you never hold a pizza like that.
I think she was just so freaked out and it was somehow comforting her. But I did notice the cutting the pizza scene, and my first thought was, well, why is she doing that? And then I was like, oh, we're supposed to know the knife is still there. This is,
that's literally because there's more of a gap in those slices than Michael Strahan's front teeth. So there's no reason to draw a knife through them. But you're exactly right. That's what it was there for.
What were your thoughts on it overall, Jeremiah? I mean, did you like this?
Yeah,
you never really said.
Well, here's the thing. I told you because I picked this one. Well, yes, it was the final thing out of the three. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I said that I had seen a preview for it. And I really wanted to watch it. And I thought it was one about a babysitter. And I remembered having seen a certain parts of it. I knew it was a stairwell, right? A banister and everything.
That's right. You said, because I hadn't seen it, and you'd say,
yeah.
You said, I think it was about a babysitter and there was a pentagram on the ground. I go, are you talking about the movie The Babysitter? Because that sounds like.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure. So as I was watching it, right out of the gate, that the whole intro sequence with the credits is superb, man. Yeah. Like amazing. I absolutely loved it. And I remembered, though, it triggered in my head. I said, I have seen this part before, because I remember at the time watching it and telling my wife, I might've been really high too the first time I saw it, because it was like even more intense, and like the nostalgia of it. And I was like, man, dude, this is crazy. But it was awesome. And even the way at the end of the credits where she kind of turns to the side and it's that still frame with that gritty camera, you know, it's the grain on it and the colors of the text and the style of the text, everything. And I was like this, and the music. I mean, I loved it. And it made me think of the 80s because it even had kind of that piano that on the one hand is a little creepy, but it's also gentle, almost like
it had like a little synth kind of. Jeff Grace is the guy who composed the music, which I love.
Fantastic. It was awesome. And so I absolutely loved the soundtrack. I loved just how perfect it was about staying true to the form and how it was so seamless that I remember the first time you mentioned earlier, Chad, about thinking, how did I not see this before in the 80s or whatever? I hadn't seen a bunch of these horror movies, but I'd at least heard of them and I'd seen them because I used to go into, Blockbuster or Family Video, and I would run past the horror aisle, but I'm pretty observant, borderline photographic memory. And so I'm like, I could run, but I'm still a blur. I'm like, I see these. And the thing is that I had never seen it. I'm like, thinking, man, did I see this as a kid? Was I older? And so I loved it in that way. There were certain things that I wasn't the biggest fan of, right? Like wondering why, and maybe there's an answer for these, like why was all the hair in the shower? What's up with that?
To creep me out.
Yeah. And how did the nurse, how did the nurse at the hospital know she was pregnant? And I found some of these I have to give credit only because it's hilarious.
Well, that they do a test on when you go in the hospital as a woman.
But back then you wouldn't have had the same thing because she would have had to be pregnant for a while for it to even be in the blood work.
Well, that pregnancy was accelerating pretty fast. Devil doesn't really wait.
Yeah, devil doesn't wait.
As a woman, if you go in, that's one of the first questions they ask you: are you pregnant? And if you can't answer the question, they're going to test you.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. Here's some other ones. And the guy, I got to give him credit. It's The Wet Rat. It's a Redditor. I saw it as a Reddit forum, and it's The Wet Rat, whoever the heck that is.
Okay.
But it's good. He said, what was the contingency plan if Samantha never called the pizza? Why was the guy in the cemetery in the first place? Shouldn't he have been waiting near a landline? Things like that. Or let me see here.
That landline's a good question because she calls and obviously him on the other end of the phone. And there are no cell phones back then. So where was he talking to her from?
He's waiting around.
Yeah.
Do you wonder if he was somewhere else in the house?
I've wondered that. I've wondered if he's actually the one upstairs because it never shows the person up the thing. It shows, after she is drugged out and falls asleep. That's when you see the beast, right? That's when you see him. It could be
like when a stranger calls. He's been in the house the whole time.
And maybe, so that was kind of weird. And then they said, the family gave Samantha free reign to explore the house full of dead bodies, satanic ritual circles, in at least 2 of the rooms without any monitoring or supervision. That was a little strange. And the one thing that I would personally say beyond this list that I would criticize is that, and I may have to walk it back a little bit, but to say,
careful, you're ruining one of the Hunter's.
Oh no, I can't.
You couldn't.
Can't ruin
it's
it.
impossible.
Yeah, I can tell. He's sold out. He's in. So, but the fact that there were 3, and I thought, if it was like Hereditary, where you've got a freaking cult, right? But there's 3 people, and this demon guy, right? Now, at first, I thought, well, that's kind of tacky, and that she breaks away and somehow is able to break away from 3 people and a demon. Like, I thought that was fantastical. But then it made me kind of think, and I said, that's actually creepier in a way, because then it's maybe like a family in a house, like it's not like a big group. It'd be easy to spot like large numbers of people. Somebody's going to give a cue that is like, whoa, what's this crap?
Right.
But 3 people, that's a small group, dude.
You can keep that on the DL.
You can, exactly, man. And so I said, in a way, like if my first impression was that's, ridiculous. And it wasn't, it was kind of, what is it, man? It's it wasn't a bang for the buck. I felt like I was expecting this large group and I thought, well, that's a little bit weird. But yet on second thought, I realized that's actually a little bit scarier, especially in the mental framework that the beginning of the movie provides by saying that this is an unexplained story. This is something that's never been fully figured out. Like, it's a real thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's got that at the beginning of it. And so if you're kind of playing into that, that makes it, to me, maybe even scarier than a large group.
Yeah. No, yeah. I totally get that.
You keep referring to the thing at the end as him or beast. I always just thought it was a witch.
That's funny because I thought it was a him demon. I wasn't sure. I'm not sure.
I just thought it was a really cool way to show an old lady rather than just like the big hook nose, a witch, and that she was had dedicated her life to this thing to the point where she, emitted this evil. I mean, they needed her blood, but I mean, I never even for once considered that it was not. I just this whole time I'm thinking, oh, this is the mom. This is the leader of the whole thing. The beginning,
It could be Pat from SNL. Oh, anything you want it to be. Which is maybe more terrifying than
the androgynous monster. That's a cool spin, man, to think about it, because I kind of thought it was a man, in part because it reminded me of the Beast from Beauty and the Beast a little bit, but also because afterward, the guy out in the cemetery, right? Mm-hmm. He's basically saying, I'm his messenger. He chose you for this. But so I'm like, oh, it's obviously a guy. However, the wife is looking out the window, using a masculine term, talking about Lord, right? Mm-hmm. Saying basically, speak to me or listen to me or hear me or whatever. And she's communicating, and that's not it doesn't appear anyway that she's communicating to the witchy demon-like figure.
Right.
So maybe, the messenger is a messenger of a spirit, right? From a spiritual realm. And that person is just simply a conduit or a representative, like a witch.
Yeah. That's how I saw it. And that they were just so manifested with the evil over the years or whatever. And then, I don't know, it distorted them. I didn't, not to say it wasn't some kind of creature or weird demon or something, but I just took it as a cool looking witch that didn't look like most witches do, even though it had that weird kind of puffy forehead and weird set eyes.
Yeah. See, at that point, my investment is in Samantha. So it's like any monster thing. The monster is secondary. I really cared more about her and tied down and covered in blood and terrified. And how do you get out of this? And you're alone. So that's where my emotional investment is. So it could be whatever. That family could be whatever they want. They're satanic motherfuckers. And they're out to put the demon seed in her. And unfortunately, they do.
There's some real weirdos. Isn't that what she calls them? She says, there's a lot of weirdos. And he's like, yes, there's a lot of weirdos. And I thought that was eerie. Like he's kind of admitting in a way, like with a serious face, like, yep, that's us.
Look, this is why I never let my kids babysit during an eclipse. And I love the fact that like that newscaster at the end talk about like scientists are baffled by how the lunar eclipse ended so quickly. Yeah. Like it defied physics and space and time. Like, why? Yeah. So I thought I'm like, all right, so this isn't made up. This isn't crazy people just howling at the moon and shedding some blood. This shit is real. And unfortunately, it's in her body now. Yeah. She's become Rosemary.
Well, I personally thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad I've seen it on, I've seen the thumbnail a lot. And originally I thought it was an old movie because that's what it looks like at first when you just glance at it. I thought it was an old movie that I'd never seen before. And then I'd heard about it only by name. I didn't know anything about what it was about. Like I mentioned to Tim today that we were going to talk about it tonight.
Right.
And he's like, oh, I love that movie. But Tim's a hard read for me anyway.
Dude, I've known him for years. I can't figure him out at all. I thought he'd hate this movie.
He's not, from what I do know, he's not somebody I would say you got to go see this movie. Or anybody that doesn't like any kind of like slow burn. if somebody didn't like some of the stuff that I liked this year, like the Beach House, I really liked. The first half probably more than the second half. But if somebody doesn't like that or doesn't like, I saw another one. What was it called? The Rental.
The Rental.
Yeah,
I like that movie. Yeah,
I liked it too. Again, another slow burn. Great movie. And
this one I'll recommend to everybody. Like this is one.
Yeah.
Hey, what should I watch at Halloween? Watch House of the Devil. Because I figure even the normies might like it because it's not too upsetting. They can maybe get into it. If they don't like it, they don't like it. But I've been preaching this movie forever. Yeah. So it's in my blood at this point. This and The Innkeepers. I love both these Ty West movies.
That I need to see. Yeah, that I've been somebody mentioned on Twitter, and it may have been Jack, actually.
That's a slower burn than this movie.
Yeah.
But the performances are so riveting, and the soundtrack is amazing, and the setting, it's great.
I love slow burns. That doesn't bother me at all. Movies like The Beach House or The Imitation, I love that mysterious tension where I don't know exactly where the horror is coming from, and I don't know what to trust, and I'm just enjoying the characterization and the development of
Dude, come to my house at Horrortober. We'll watch The Innkeepers together. It'll be on the TV.
On my way.
Everyone's invited. It's all good. What I do is I put the TV in the yard. So we do like drive-in the yard thing.
Yeah.
So you got the TV, I put up the tents and whatever, and we'll just sit outside and watch movies out in the yard. So I'm sure we'll do this all until it's too cold.
Yeah.
Jeremiah, you're gonna give this like a rating, or are you just gonna?
No,
thumbs up, 2.5 thumbs up.
2.5. No, there was actually something that was said by a person. I don't even know how to pronounce it properly, but I'm probably hacking to pieces. But Pajiba, PAJIBA.com, and I thought that it was really well. I thought it was really good, and it actually sums up my thoughts about it. It said it's not a homage, spoof, or parody of a certain subset of early '80s horror films, as much as it actually is one of those movies. If you've heard nothing about it and picked it up casually at a DVD store and watched it at home, you may never realize that it's a 2009 movie, and it certainly shares nothing in common with its contemporaries, with their big-chested squealers, buff heroes, and Rob Zombie soundtracks. And I thought, true,
Yeah, that's great.
I thought it was great. Yeah, I thought it was really good. And, in spite of the slow burn, which, that's not a deal breaker for me. And in spite of, my original impression of the three people and the monster, or, some of, any of the other things that I could be critical of, the question, as to, why was that guy out in the cemetery or whatever, I enjoyed watching it. I did not fall asleep. That's one thing I can definitely say. I did not fall asleep.
One thing over Chad. Jeez.
One thing over Chad. Yeah, I didn't fall asleep. And I liked it. It was but at the same time, and part of it is because, I'm a religious guy, right? I'm a devout Catholic guy. And so there may be people that in my social circle that I would not be like, hey, watch this movie. You know what I mean? But at the same, or that they might not be into that kind of horror and stuff like that. But
it gets a little gritty at the end.
Yeah, but it's not one that I would discourage. And, I wouldn't be like, don't watch that. It's, it sucks. No way. And so I enjoyed it. I love the soundtrack. I mean, I like it in a different way than I liked It Follows.
The It Follows soundtrack is my favorite of the last.
That's a much more chaotic soundtrack, though, too.
Yeah, it's exactly. And so, it's a different thing, and it's a modern thing. In fact, I feel, even though it has a retro feel and sound to it, it's still video game-esque, right? And so this was different, but I loved it. I loved the style of the clothes. I loved the throwback to all of the things. So I have very little to say that's a criticism of the production of it, the acting in it, or anything. And so it was definitely enjoyable. What about you, Chad? What did you think about it, man? Other than falling asleep,
when you were awake.
Yeah, when you were awake, what were your thoughts? And maybe even while you were sleeping, what were your thoughts?
I mean, I think I just went over all of that. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that Hunter picked it. I don't know that I have any criticisms other than the nap inducing part. I kind of understand it, but I wonder if it couldn't have been done a little differently to keep me engaged. But it was just like I said, I'm not a fan of I'm a fan of slow burn, but not of that particular type of predictable build up, I guess. But other than that, I liked it. It had great practical effects. Seeing Tom Noonan in it was pretty cool. And the soundtrack, of course. And just, I'll take anything that's set in the 70s or early 80s, man. I mean, that's when I grew up, you know?
Exactly.
Nostalgia.
Hit you in the feels.
But yeah, so Jeremiah, was there any kind of like moral that you pulled from, you know, any kind of lesson learned from watching this movie?
If you're ever in a situation like that, number one, if you're asked to babysit grandma, make sure you at least see her first. Like, she might be a crazy demon figure. You never know. If you're going to check rooms and one of them, you know, you kind of look at and stare at for a long time, go with your gut and look in there, because there might be a dead family in the shape of a pentagram. But also,
very true.
You know, in the play on drafthouse.com, talk on the phone, finish your homework, watch TV, and do your damnedest not to die. Okay. And, you know, if
that's
you're going
to solid advice. I tell this to my kids every day they leave the house.
Yeah. That's just what it is. And so that's mine. Now, you know, I know that the viewers, they've been anxiously awaiting yours. As we've said many times, you have a very elongated process of fleshing this out. We can't help but to laugh. It's an inside joke. So we'll tell the elongated process joke sometime, and people know what the heck, why we keep using that phrase. But you know, you do yoga, you know.
Oh boy, where's this going?
I do yoga.
You do yoga. I was gonna say Kama Sutra, but I was like, I don't know. You break out the tantric.
You guys are real close.
He breaks out the tantric meditation music, dude. The 432 hertz and everything, and really gets in his zone when he's processing this in his calculations. So what did you, when you came out of that cave of illumination? What was the lesson that you gathered about this movie?
You know, there are all kinds of lessons to learn from this film. For example, if you get a call from some creepy John Malkovich sounding dude begging you to babysit, hang up. You know,
Move on.
But if you don't, and you show up to his house, and the creep factor goes way up even more, bail.
Yeah.
By the way, if you get a phone call from a dude on a payphone,
yeah,
really run.
Right. Yes, exactly. But I think the most important lesson here is that old people need assistance, and they should be able to get it without feeling like they're putting someone out. Except for this woman, that bitch was crazy.
Yeah. Completely. Oh my god.
Oh, dude. You spent a long time in Illumination Cave in order to get there.
I did.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Many lessons learned.
Yeah. So many downward dogs and upward facing dogs, and
that's right.
Things like that.
Tell us how they can go follow us and validate us by clicking on various things and stalking us, Jeremiah.
Yeah. Well, and to give us their opinion on this film, you know, and let us know what they thought, you know, because we're always interested in what people have to say and different people who've watched it and perspectives and everything.
If you don't like it, I'll fight you.
Yes.
We'll have it out.
Was it a witch? Was it a witch or was it a beast man?
That's a great question. Was it a woman? Was it a man, or was it androgynous Pat? That is the question. And you can answer that question in multiple different ways. You can find us online. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, although we've been kind of inactive on that. It's kind of like a little bit of a ghost town, a little sadly so. But you can find us at Paleo Cheese. That's PALEOCHEEZE. Paleo Cheese. And then you can also email us again at Paleo Cheese without spelling it out again. paleocheese@gmail.com. We're on iTunes, we're on Acast, we're on Spotify. We're all over the place, and so you can find us all over. And of course, on YouTube, we're Paleo Cheese Podcast. We've got that really cool logo now. So if you see two guys with beards looking kind of wild with what's the name of the twins, man?
Grady twins.
Yeah, the Grady twins. Their dress, the nice blue dress and everything. Then you are at the right place. That's definitely us. So make sure to check that out and make sure to post a comment on what you think on whether the beast at the end, the crazy monster looking person or creature, was it a man? Was it a woman? Was it kind of a Pat-like figure? Pat. Or is it something? Yeah, Pat. Or is it some kind of alien? What's your thoughts? We'd love to find out. So make sure to let us know and share it everywhere you go.
And Hunter, where can they stalk you at and read your fine books like Slash here by Flame Tree Press?
I'm going to give my home address. No. Go to huntershea.com. Everything's there. That's the links to my books, my blog, my podcasts, everything. So one convenient space for everybody.
And we'll have that in the description below. So, and we'll also have it in the pinned comments. So make sure when you go in the comment section to answer the question that we'll go ahead and we'll have a link there for him. We'll also have,
and that's on the YouTube. If they go to YouTube rather than just listening on Spotify, is that what you mean?
Well, we can make it on both. I mean, we're very talented guys. We can
iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher.
We can make this happen if we don't fall asleep. If we don't fall asleep, so I'll take care of it because Chad takes naps.
Chad,
midday and night.
Sit back and close your eyes.
and go check out Monster Man with Jack and Hunter, and as well as Final Guys with Tim and Jack and Hunter and Jason. Podcast.
It's all about fun, man.
Lots of fun on there.
Yes, well, it was great getting to meet you there, Hunter.
Also meeting you.
Yeah, man.
And now I'm going to be stalking Chad. Let's see how many more podcasts we can do together.
Dude, I'm just waiting for Tim to break his ankle or do something wonderful that I can come on there and
what'll happen is he'll get his hair like sucked into the hair dryer and can't do the show. So then we'll have you on there. Although it might happen to you too. So I don't know.
Yeah. That's true.